Namaste, good morning, and welcome to the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston and our Sunday morning service. Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadati Purvam Yo Vai Vedangscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tam Hadevam Atmabuddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. We who seek liberation take refuge in that infinite light who illuminates the hearts of all, who gave this sacred knowledge to Brahma the Creator and is the source of the very being of the Creator himself. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Om Peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So this morning, the topic is the art and the science of meditation. And the significance of the title is that meditation is, in a sense, it's a science. You can learn the science of meditation, how to meditate, the different methods of meditation, how to control the mind, what helps, what hurts in meditation. But it's also an art, meaning that it can't really be reduced to a recipe. If you have a recipe for something to cook, then if the ingredients are good and you follow the process and you know how to do what is called for, then the dish comes out well. But even in cooking, there's an art. And that's why people following the same recipe, some will come out with a delicious tasting dish and others mediocre. If they follow the ingredients in the recipe, it comes out okay. But there's some who have that touch with food where everything that they touch comes out tasting good. I once, when traveling cross country, I was moving from San Diego to the Ridgely Manor in upstate New York. And along the way, had to stop at places to eat. So I'll never forget this very forgettable roadside restaurant in Oklahoma. It was out in the country, but there were lots of locals there, so that's usually a good sign. The parking lot was full at lunchtime, and when there are lots of locals there, it usually means that they know where the good food is. And in this, it was sort of a cafeteria-style place, and everything, including the iced tea, tasted bad. So I think that they missed both the art and the science of cooking. But with meditation, it's a science, a high science, and it's a high art. That is, there are principles to meditation. And then it's something that, like riding a bicycle, you can explain to a kid or an adult who's never ridden a bicycle how to ride. But there's an art to getting the sense of balance and moving forward. I saw the headline to an article recently which says, which was, why do we still not understand how a bicycle works? Meaning how it is that people can ride bicycles. I didn't know it was still a mystery, but apparently, according to this article, and it was in a legitimate source, even that scientists can't quite figure out how it is that we can ride bicycles. I would be not at all surprised if they talked about why it is that we cannot understand the science of unicycles. That I still can't understand, but a bicycle seems like it would be more reducible to scientific principles, but apparently there is more to it than scientists can comfortably explain. So there are many things in life where there's an art and a science to it, and so with meditation. Now, I want to start with a rather depressing statement, and I'm going to end with the depressing statement also. But I'll explain it so that it's not depressing, so that it is useful to us in our practice. And that is Swami Atmarupananda, a great disciple of the Holy Mother, whom I have quoted before. He's the one whom I have quoted as saying in lectures I give and classes I give on karma yoga, that it's not what you do that's important, it's who you are becoming through the doing that's important. It's not what you do that's important, it's who you are becoming through the doing. So that is a wonderful insight into the secret of karma yoga. But he also said something to me about meditation. When he came to San Diego back in 1990, it was either 89 or 90, I believe must have been 1990. And it was on the day of he arrived on the day of his 90th birthday. And so he stayed with me for 5 days, and I learned many things from him during that period. It was just the Swami and myself for those 5 days. So I had plenty of chances to talk to him and learn from him. So towards the end of our stay together, he pulled me aside. It was after one of the classes or something, one of the public events that we had during his stay there. He pulled me aside and wanted to tell me something privately when other people were around, and said, "You see, I find that in the West, there's an overemphasis on meditation. That people overemphasize meditation. And as a result, I find that people's minds are becoming that they are becoming depressed and passive in mind. And that's not a good thing." Then he said, "Even we," meaning himself at 90 years old, disciple of Holy Mother, "even for us, meditation is difficult." They said that we overemphasize meditation, and as a result, people's minds are becoming lethargic and passive and depressed. And so I thought about that. At the time when he said it, I thought, oh no, I don't agree with that. But with time, I understood what it was that he meant. And that is that if we think of meditation as spiritual life means meditation, then no, that's a mistake. There are many other things that we have to do in spiritual life that we have to take care of besides just meditation. Meditation is one tool that we have, but it's not equivalent to meditation. And meditation takes years before we begin to feel the benefits of it. There are immediate benefits of it. It is a good practice. But in the West, the idea became, it's not present in India so much, but in the West, the idea became, or has become for many decades, that spiritual life means meditation. Through the influence of Buddhism, through the influence of yoga and Vedanta and Hinduism, that idea has spread that spiritual life means meditation. And other things you do are not so important, but if you are a follower of an Eastern tradition, Hinduism or Buddhism, it means that meditation is central to your life. But meditation is difficult. It's very difficult to really meditate deeply. That's very difficult. And so people, after years of practice, oftentimes feel that, why? I haven't gotten anywhere. My mind is still restless. So what is the use of it? Well, no, there is a great use of it, use to it, as I will explain. And it is a great science, and it is important to spiritual life from the beginning. But it's not the most important thing. It's not the most important thing. It should go along with other things. The cultivation of the heart, the cultivation of the purification of our emotions, the simplification of our minds and emotional involvements and so forth, the cultivation of moral virtues, just being a good person, not goody-goody. Up in Trinity, where we have the new retreat, which is going to be inaugurated this next weekend, the carpenter and the electrician, who are local people up there who work, they don't know who I am or what I am. They just know that I'm some sort of preacher. And so in their talking, they will say something like, "I had a hell of a time," excuse my language, as if I'm going to be offended by damn or hell or even stronger words. It's very hard to offend me with words. But so I don't mean goody-goody, that walk around like this all the time and There's a beautiful expression in some parts of India that even butter won't melt in his mouth, meaning that he's so cold, he's so calm that he's too calm, that there's no fire in him, and that even butter put on his tongue won't melt. It stays hard. So no, not like that. But becoming deeply good, good as far as honesty, truthfulness, straightforwardness, wishing well to others, helping others where it's possible, that kind of goodness. So these things are just as important in spiritual life, and they should be in the forefront. Becoming a good person, doing that which we know needs to be done, fulfilling our legitimate duties, again, not being a busybody and trying to take on duties that aren't ours, but doing that which we need to do to fulfill our legitimate responsibilities, and doing it with goodwill towards others and so forth. And that also is an ideal. It's not that we start out being good people in the best sense of the term. We have various conflicts of emotions and conflicts of interests and selfishnesses and jealousies and all of that. That's okay. Not to stay there, but that's just admitting I'm a human being. I have these things, so let me work on them. That's the raw material we work with. It's out of those problems we have, conflicts that we have, desires that we have, conflicted emotions, bad emotions and things that we have. It's out of working with those and controlling them that we get spiritual energy. So that's not a bad thing. Swami Vivekananda once said to his disciples in India, his monastic disciples he was speaking to, he said, let no one feel bad that they have issues with anger, because that means you have something to control, which will bring spiritual power to you. So don't feel bad about the raw material, whatever it is that you have, whatever the problems they are that you have. Work with them. And so again, if meditation is the only thing that we're doing for our spiritual life, then it's going to be a long, hard, difficult road, because that takes a lifetime to develop. So, as I said, I'm beginning with a depressing statement, but really what Swami Nityaswarupananda meant was that we have to give it its proper place and not overemphasize it. As with everything, there are exceptions. We had two wonderful devotees, a devotee couple in San Diego, Bob and Gretchen, American, and in those days all of our devotees were American. And for them, meditation was everything. In fact, he would come, he was a disciple, they both were disciples of Swami Prabhupada. They had been Vedantins for decades. They were much older than me, and now they are both in nursing homes requiring 24-hour care. But wonderful people, and their interest in life was meditation, and that's all that they wanted. And they were very sincere about it, spending hours every day. They went to work, did their work, and came home, and it was meditation. Such people are extremely rare, both among devotees, among swamis as well. Very rare, those who can devote all of their time to meditation. So unless we feel called to that and we love it and feel good doing it, no, meditation is a part of our life, something that we do every day to develop. And as Holy Mother said, it's like the rudder of your boat. It keeps you going in the right direction, because at least once a day, and preferably twice a day, you sit for a while, you fix your mind on God, and yes, the mind wanders away. But at least when you sit, you're sitting for a good purpose. And when you find that the mind has wandered away and you realize it's already time to get up, then you leave with a good purpose. So even if that's all that you get out of it, it's giving a sense of purpose to your life. It's giving a direction to your life. And it doesn't stay that way. There'll be times in the midst of the distractions of the mind where the mind comes back. That itself is a great practice. So what she meant by it being like the rudder, she meant that don't expect it for a number of years to be the driving force of your spiritual life. It's that which keeps you oriented towards God, that every day I must sit for a while. Pick an amount of time that you can do every day. It's better to do something every day, a little bit every day, than a lot one day and nothing for the next 2 weeks. Pick something you can do every day, and when you feel like it, you can add more, but always have that as sort of the baseline, that every day I do this much. and it will keep your life going well. It'll be a time when you can can learn to sit and forget about all of the noise in your life. Yes, it keeps rushing back in as you sit, but then you remember, no, let me just brush it away. So you have these moments of clarity and calmness in the midst of all of the confusion of life when you can brush all of these things away. So now let me come to ways of looking at meditation. These are ways of thinking about meditation. And why is this important? It's important because these different ways that I'm going to mention, some of them will appeal to a particular person more than others. Everyone will have the way that seems best to them. But if we have these ideas in mind, then when we sit for meditation, we have an idea in principle of what it is that I'm aiming at. And that will change sometimes in the midst of a single meditation or from day to day. You sit for meditation, and one day you think that you're thinking of meditation in this way. The next day, perhaps you think of it in a different way, and that's okay. Or in the same meditation, you move from one to another. Not deliberately. Don't set up a schedule that, okay, right now I'm going to think about this, and then I'm going to think about that, and then this. No, these are sort of background ideas of meditation. So one of them is to look at meditation as concentration, focusing the mind. We all find the difficulty of focusing the mind on something. We've all had the experience many times of reading something, and we get to the end of the paragraph and realize, I read the whole paragraph and I have no idea what I read. I was thinking of something else. So you go back to the top and say, okay, this time let me pay attention. You get to the bottom and realize, my God, I did it again. You go back to the top, come down, my God, I did it a third time, right in the same session here. What's going on? Well, it's because the mind is preoccupied. So the one way of thinking of meditation is learning to focus the mind, putting it where you want to. Just thinking that is not going to accomplish it. That's the task. So accept the fact that the mind of the average person, even the mind of an Einstein or a Niels Bohr or a great scientist, a great artist, a great musician, even their minds have the same problem. If they try to meditate, they'll find the same problem we find. So it's not a factor of intelligence. It's not a factor of anything else. It's part of the human condition. So one way to think of meditation is sitting and focusing the mind. So when you sit for meditation and you think of it that way, then okay, that's what I'm doing. The energy of my mind is going in all sorts of directions, thinking about so many things. Right now, I'm going to try to fix it here. Let me try to do that. And a moment or two later, you find yourself wandering in other thoughts. And then no, I'm focusing my mind. I'm focusing it here. Let me try to bring focus to my attention. What's the use of concentrating the mind? As Swami Vivekananda says, concentration is the means through which we gain all knowledge. It's for lack of concentration that we find it difficult to learn things. Just as I said in the example with reading, we read it and our mind is somewhere else, and it just passes right by us. Our eyes have followed every word, and part of the mind was registering every word, and yet the conscious mind was somewhere else, and we don't remember, have no idea what we just read. So, learning to focus the mind. Concentration is one way. Another is which is similar, is to be aware. Just to, when you're sitting and you're meditating, you say, to use an example of a practice that many of us do, you're doing japa, repeating a mantra. But it applies to any meditation practice, but I'll take a specific practice like japa, repeating a mantra. So you're repeating the mantra, and again, the mind is wandering all over the place. The japa goes on because you've done it enough, and it doesn't take long to get to this point where you're doing japa, you're using beads perhaps, or your fingers, but more likely beads, and you're doing japa. And you go through 108, and the mind has been somewhere else. And so think of meditation, doing japa, visualizing whatever it is, as making the mind present. So concentrating the rays of the mind in a point, bringing all of the focus here. And similar to that is the practice of just being aware of what I'm doing. Okay, I'm doing japa. Let me just be aware of what I'm doing. And I can't, because of the lack of power of my mind, I can't do the japa, focus on that, visualize the Ishta, and think of what the meaning is, and remember that the Ishta is living and conscious and seated in my heart and looking at me lovingly. I can't do all of those things. I don't have the mental power to keep all of that in mind. So if I think of meditation as just being aware of what I'm doing, then while I'm doing japa, even if I'm just being aware of the process of doing japa, I'll use a universal mantra that everyone knows, like Om, or Om Namah Shivaya. So Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Even if I can't think of who Shiva is, I can't visualize Shiva, I can't focus on the deeper meaning, let me at least just be aware of the fact that I'm saying Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. After a while, the mind again will get tired and wander away. But then bring it back and say, no, let me just be aware at least of what I'm doing. Let me at least just be aware. I can even focus on the movement of my lips. I'm not reciting it out loud, but making the movement with my tongue and lips. Just focus on that. So just having awareness of what I'm doing and trying to bring that awareness to what I'm doing. And that through other practices of meditation, that can become a practice you do at all times of the day. When you're washing dishes, you just pay attention to what you're doing. You're sweeping, you're just aware of your sweeping. And it helps a great deal in calming the noise of the mind, that continuous chatter that drives us crazy, that we can't stop. Just by simply, and without tensing up and without getting frustrated or anything, just in a relaxed way, trying to do it, just paying attention to what I'm doing. If I can do that with japa and with my activities, I find that I begin to find joy in everything. Even washing dishes, sweeping the floor, things like that gives me a sense of presence and a sense of being centered and a sense of inner satisfaction. So concentrating the rays of the mind on one point, okay, now I'm going to be focused on what I'm doing. Or in a more relaxed way, let me just be aware of what I'm doing. Another is identity with what I'm doing. So if I'm doing japa, another way to think of meditation, and again, I'm using japa as an example because it's a practice that many people do, a very good practice. I'm doing japa, and just thinking that I am identifying with the mantra. There's nothing there. I'm identifying myself with the mantra. I've mentioned on occasion that there was a book I read many years ago when I was a new brahmachari. Was Hinduism Invades America. And it was saying that Hinduism was the greatest threat to Christianity. And I've told why they said that on other occasions. I won't go into that now. But in part of the book, he mentions that he traveled to India and he met some Swamis of the Ramakrishna Mission in Varanasi. And he asked them, why do you meditate? And so the Swami said, well, you see, we say we meditate on Shiva, who is the Lord of our city here, Varanasi. And we meditate on Shiva. We try to identify with Shiva and become Shiva through meditation. And so this author of the book, who was an evangelical Christian minister, he said, you see, in Hinduism, they're trying to identify with the devil. Is devil worship, because Shiva, he has a snake, he's wearing a snake, and he's carrying a trident like the devil, and he's half naked and covered with ash. So obviously he's a symbol of the devil, and they're trying to identify with the devil. No, that's absurd, of course. But what the Swami said was true, that I think in meditation I'm identifying with that which I'm meditating on. That is trying to forget everything else and just identifying with that. That is reality. Forgetting oneself. That is. And so yes, that's the fruit of meditation, and that's when meditation goes very high. But even if we think in those terms, so I'm reciting the mantra again in the example. And I can think at times, and again, none of these, no one will respond equally to all of these, but this is one that some may respond to. So I'm doing japa, thinking in terms of identity, and so just thinking that there's nothing but the mantra. The mantra is everything. There's no separate me. There's just the mantra, just the mantra, nothing else. And so thinking of it as identity, I'm identifying with the mantra. So the drop of my individual awareness, I merge it in the ocean of divine awareness, and to forget myself in that, because that is the most beneficial self-forgetfulness. That's not a dangerous set for self-forgetfulness. That is finding the core of your being. So thinking of it as identity. Then thinking of it also in a similar way, thinking of meditation in terms of unity, ekatva, unity, that there is just the one. If reality is one and non-dual, the non-dual Brahman, which expresses itself as the Saguna Brahman, as God, as Ishvara, as the deities, etc., each one of which is Brahman itself. So the reality is non-dual, and so whatever I am meditating on, that also thinking of that as unity, bringing my whole being into unity. So it's similar to identity. It's actually the same thing as identity, but thinking of it from the standpoint of oneness. That is, that there is just the one, there is just the mantra, nothing else exists. All of you have heard of Ramana Maharshi, the great South Indian sage of the 20th century, born in the 19th, but most of his life was in the 20th century. A great teacher of the path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga, a great Advaitin, and yet he spoke often about japa. And he said that he advised many people to practice japa, and said that your real nature is japa. So what does that mean? Your real nature is japa. Well, do it and find out. That's something that he never explained, and it can't be explained, but it can be thought of. We can intuit it. We can get a feeling for it. Not realize it yet. That will come at the heights. But we can get a feeling for it just by thinking when I'm doing japa that the mantra is everything. The mantra is everything. The whole universe and all possible universes are contained within the mantra. The mantra is the name of God, identical with the divine being itself. And so if it's identical with the divine being itself, then within the mantra is reality itself, everything. The whole of reality is there in the mantra. So, yes, the realization of that, if you do that, then we'll all bow down to you. And one day you will realize it. But in the foreseeable future, it's a practice. And so just think in those terms when you're doing japa, that the mantra is everything. And so when the mind wanders away, you think, why am I thinking of that? What do I need to think about that for? Right here is everything. Everything is right here. Let me hold my mind to that which contains everything. Why think about these little insignificant things? One of the ways in which, again, we can understand Holy Mother's saying that meditation is the rudder that keeps the boat of life going straight in its direction towards God, is that when we are meditating, we begin to see that the mind is obsessed with so many things, and say, if anything has happened which is disturbing, either in a good or a bad way, where something that's negative happened, or something that's very positive that has us excited, anything that gets us excited, we start obsessing over it. And say there's something important that we have to do that demands a lot of energy. It's going to demand a lot of energy. It's going to demand a lot of time and attention and all of that. And so we're worried because you can't relax. I've got this huge thing that I've got to accomplish. It's in front of me. I've got to do it. And so we start thinking, we sit for meditation and we start thinking about that. Okay, I've got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do the other thing, and how am I going to do this, how am I going to do that, what if this happens, what if that happens, what if so-and-so doesn't come, what if so-and-so does come, that's a problem maker, and all of these things are coming. that doesn't help us at all. What we need to think about is the thing that's coming towards us that we have to do. Yes, we do have to think about it. We have to plan. We have to know what it is that we need to accomplish it. But that can be thought of fairly quickly. The going over it, we find that we're sitting there in meditation, and we go over all of those things in our head that we don't really need to go over right now, because the actual things that we need to do are fairly clear. But we're so anxious that we're afraid we're going to forget it. So we go over it, and then immediately we go over it again. And then we go over it again. 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 And it just goes on and on and on. We're not helping ourselves at all. We're not getting any closer to getting anything done. We're not figuring it out. We're just thinking the same old tired thoughts over and over again and wearing ourselves sick. So when you find yourself doing that, realize that I have everything I need right here. Let me just focus on this. And yes, the mind will go back to it. But then again, you catch yourself and say, why am I doing that? I don't need it. And so you begin to learn that the mantra is the whole of reality. Why would I leave that to go think about something else? And so gradually that becomes a way of thinking. And yes, there are times when you have to direct your attention to things that have to be done, and you have to do it. But this obsessive thinking over and over and over again in the same pattern, the same thoughts coming up, the same process going over and over again, as they call it nowadays, and have been calling it for several decades, since the invention of tape recorders. The tapes are running in your head. You're going over the same tape over and over again without getting anywhere. So thinking of it as unity, and thinking of it as absorption, which is similar to the other things. Several of these words, like identity and union, those are practically the same, but just a slight difference of emphasis. Absorption, that is just absorbing myself in this and forgetting everything else. So absorption gives the idea of its opposite, that is forgetting all of the other things, or its associate, I should say, because you do this, the two to come together. You absorb yourself in this by forgetting everything else. And so then if we can think in those terms, meditation begins to feel, at least at times when we can come to it, meditation begins to feel like a freedom. We're free of all of these obsessive thoughts, all of these obsessive worries and all of that. I'm free of that. I can just absorb myself in this. I don't need to think about these things. Just let it go, let it go. Yes, the things come back. Let it go, let it go. They come back. Let it go, let it go. So with all of these things, learn to meditate without feeling frustration, because it's hard. By hard, I mean it takes a long time. It's not hard in the sense like you're climbing up a mountain, and so you don't want it to start feeling like you're climbing up a steep cliff, which is exhausting every muscle in your body. No, don't do that in meditation. Learn in meditation to relax. The mind gets upset and starts obsessing, then bring it back and relax again. The mind starts obsessing, then relax. Don't think of it as tensing up and, I've got to meditate now. I've got to focus the mind. No, not like that. Just, okay, let all of that go. Let it go. I'm just sitting here. All I need to do is just hold on to the mantra. That's all I need to do. Let everything else go. So two more ways of thinking of it, let me mention. One is thinking of it as stillness. We're so busy in our lives. We have so many things to do, requiring so much energy. And then even when we have a little time to relax, then we fill it with something else. We go to look for something to distract ourselves. So learn to think of meditation as a time when you can just be still, not to go to sleep, not to take a nap. Those are fine. We need that too. But meditation is not the time for taking a nap or going to sleep. It's the time for awake stillness, alert stillness. So, yes, you sit for meditation and you feel anything but still. But just remember that underneath all of this commotion going on in my mind and my body and all of that, there is stillness inside of me. I know that. The teachers have told me that. The scriptures have told me that. There is stillness in there. Let me just keep trying to relax into that stillness. And let me think when I'm doing the mantra, that let me just be here in stillness with the mantra, with nothing else. Like a limpid lake, a still lake, I'm just dropping a pebble into the water, pebble after pebble, and the ripple of the Ishta rises every time I say the mantra. And let me just be still here and forget about everything else. So stillness. And then the last I'll mention for today is transcendence. I still have a few other things to say before I close, but as far as ways of thinking of meditation, transcendence. That's a wonderful thing. Swami Vivekananda says that it's only in meditation is the only time, it's in meditation alone when we are established in our own nature, when we are who we really are. We think, oh, I'm Swami Atmarupananda, I'm this and I'm that, and I come from this place and I live in that place and I do this and I'm defined by my occupation and all of these things, and I have these friends and I have those enemies, and these things I like and those things I don't like. No, meditation is a time to forget all of that and to see that none of that matters. None of it matters. Again, you don't have to think in terms of fierce, get rid of this and get rid of that. No, just none of it matters. Who cares? I'm just here. I'm just still. Let me just be here and be with this. And so, yes, you find it's difficult. But if you have that sense that that's what I'm trying to do, then you begin to at least get a feeling for it. And if you can get a feeling for any of these things, an intuitive feeling, that's a great help. A simple meditation, which is good, not for your complete meditation, though it could be, but for most people it's not advisable to make this your main meditation, but something to do as part of your meditation is just, and you can do it when you first sit or when you're just before you get up or whatever, is just to feel just present. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to go anywhere. No matter what is on my schedule later, right now, I'm just here. I am present now. And that's all. Nothing else is important. Let me let everything else go. Let me be here still. And just to feel stillness. And if we do that for some time, I don't mean at a stretch, but from day to day, just for a minute or two, we begin to get a sense of what stillness means. Stillness, which is so absent in our life. But we begin to get a feeling for what stillness is. So again, if we think of meditation as concentration, focusing the rays of the mind, gathering the energy of the mind and directing it towards whatever, thinking of it as awareness, being aware of what I'm doing. I'm doing japa. I just need to be aware that I'm doing japa. If I can't do anything else, let me just be aware of the fact that I'm doing japa. Identity with that which I'm doing. The mantra is everything. Oneness, which is similar, and thinking that there's nothing else. There is nothing else. This contains everything. There's nothing else to do. Absorption, that is forgetting everything else, stillness, and transcendence. These are sort of background ways of thinking of meditation, which are very helpful once we internalize them. And then we can use them as tools. And if we can even for a moment, once in a while, get a feeling of any one of these, it gives us something that we can come back to. Oh yes, I remember that time some days ago when I really felt still. So that memory is there. I can go back to that. I can go back to that. That's what stillness is like. That's where I want to be. Or when I feel that nothing else matters, that this is everything, nothing else matters. Oh, I remember when I felt like that. Let me go back to it. Let me go back to it. So if we have a memory of an intuitive feeling, then we have something to aim towards, something which will calm the mind, something which will let the mind know that, no, the meditation is worthwhile. I can go back to these moments. Most of the time, even in my meditation, my mind is distracted, but I know that that's possible. So let me just relax and come back to it. So now let me say a little bit more about meditation. I wanted to speak about types of meditation, but there's not going to be time because I have a major announcement to make today, which is going to take time. Not about the inauguration, but a bigger announcement. So just a little bit about the practice in general, and then we'll stop for announcements. One thing, as I said, regularity of practice is important. Now, everyone's schedule doesn't allow that. So if you have a schedule which changes, you have work that you have to work different shifts at different times, you have children whose schedules you have to adjust to, and all kinds of other things. So if you don't have the possibility of having a regular schedule, that at this time every day I'm going to sit and practice meditation, then do something like when I get up in the morning, after I brush my teeth and get a cup of tea or coffee if I need to or whatever, then let me, the first thing in the morning, sit for a little bit. And or before I go to bed. Before I go to bed, whatever time it is, whatever my schedule is that day, before I go to bed, I'm going to sit for a little bit. So make it associated with activities you do every day, so that you have that association that when I get up, I do this. Before I go to bed, I do this. But if you have a regular schedule in your life where you're able to establish a more or less a clock time when you sit, that's very helpful. Because if you do that for a while, then when 7 o'clock in the evening comes, you know that, oh, it's 7 o'clock, it's time for me to sit. Or it's 6 in the morning, it's time for me to get up and sit. So that association with the time comes and helps a great deal. So regularity of practice one way or another, whether associating it with something that I do every day or associating it with clock time. And as I said before, picking an amount of time that I can do. Don't pick an amount of time which is ideal and which the ancient yogis used to do when they had nothing else to do but sit in the forest, and then you do it one day and you burn your circuits and say, I'm never going to do this again. No, pick a small amount of time that you can do every day without feeling bothered, without feeling that I really can't give this much time to it. No, pick something that you can do every day. And then, if you can, gradually increase it a little. If you are, unless you have been meditating for many, many years, most people cannot use an hour at a time of meditation. Once in a while, doing it to stretch your capacity is good, but most people can't use that much time. So if you can develop to where you can have an hour at a time meditation, good. If you can develop to where you can have 2 hours at a time, wow, then you're really doing great. But use an amount of time that you can use, that you're not frustrating yourself, that you're not spinning your wheels, and stick to it. So regularity. And then when you're meditating, and this is hard, I don't mean hard again in the sense of you got to work at it, but hard to accomplish. It requires repeated attempts. Forget about time. During the time that you're doing it, you've got a certain amount of time that you have allotted for sitting during meditation, but during that time, don't do the famous routine of little children in the car on a trip. Mommy, are we there yet? Mommy, are we there yet? Are we there yet? I know. I've given this time to meditation. Whether I accomplish something in a year, whether it takes 40 years, whether it takes a lifetime, whether it takes 10 lifetimes, whether it takes 100 lifetimes. Yes, that sounds scary, I admit. But I use that. It won't take 100 lifetimes. It won't take 10 lifetimes. But I use that to convince my mind that forget about the end results. Keep the end result in mind, that this is what is there. This is the reality I'm aiming at, but not in the sense of when it will come to me. So keep the end of meditation always in mind, that this is what I'm trying to do, in that sense as the goal. Keep it in mind as what you're trying to do right now, but not in the sense of when am I going to get there? When am I going to get fulfillment? Whenever, and that thought comes to everybody. When it comes, just say, that's insignificant. Think of it in this way. If you can forget completely about how long it's going to take and how miserable that is, that it's going to take so long, and I've got to do this every day, and who knows whether it will, how far I will get in this life and all of that, and I've already been doing it for this much time, and don't see much progress. If you can forget about all of that, and I'm just doing this, let years come, let lifetimes pass, let kalpas and yugas and everything pass. This is what I'm doing. If you can get to that, then you're almost there. And so just start out by trying to do that. Again, it's hard because the mind won't leave you alone. It keeps checking to see, am I there yet? Am I there yet? Today I didn't experience anything. No, forget about that. Just the goal is there. It's not going anywhere. The reality is not going anywhere. The fulfillment is not going anywhere. So you don't have to get there quick before it disappears. It's reality. It's there. It's there right now. It's just me that can't give up everything else, all my attention to everything else, and just be with it. And so if you want to just be with it, the way to be there is not to keep checking, am I there yet? Am I there yet? How far have I gotten? How far have I gotten? No, learn to forget about that. As Swami Vivekananda says, if the means are correct, then the goal is going to be there. The goal is going to be there. And so you don't have to worry about it. It's, again, you use the cooking analogy. If you have a good recipe, you have good ingredients, and you know how to cook, then how can you mess it up? It's going to be there. So that's why a good cook is not constantly anxious that, what if I mess it up? What if I mess it up? I've done this so many times. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. The ingredients are good. It's going to come out. And so for someone like me who never gained confidence as a cook, I was always amazed at people who told me they like to cook to relax. For me, it was anything but relaxation. Because I had to learn cooking in a community situation as a monk in a monastery where brother monks are the greatest critics in the world. And nothing pleases anybody. So it was always a anxiety-ridden exercise. But no, learn to be a good cook. And I did learn that. I did learn to be a very good cook. I've lost practice now, but I can regain it. So learn to be a good cook who is confident. I know what I'm doing. And so the result is going to be there. So I have the instructions in meditation. And yes, there are things that I can keep learning and all of that, but I know basically what to do. And I just let me keep applying myself and forget about time, forget about when it's going to happen. And if you can do that, then you're very close. So finally, I'll say, and then I'll come to announcements, to learn to think of meditation as in simple terms. Before I was giving sort of ideal terms which can help us right now, like thinking of it as identity, thinking of it as oneness, thinking of it as concentration of mind, as being aware, alert, and present with what I'm doing. But in simple terms, think of meditation as connecting. I'm sitting here and I'm connecting to the Ishta. If my Ishta, say, is Ramakrishna or the Holy Mother, but whoever it is, but it's easier to speak in concrete terms, Ramakrishna or Holy Mother, then I'm seated here with you. I'm repeating your name. And your name, I have learned, is the same as you are. It's one with you. So when I'm repeating your name, you are here. You are present in your name. The whole of your reality is present in your name. It's my misfortune that I don't see it, but I have faith that that's the case, that you are here in the midst of your name. So just think of it as, I'm here connecting with you. I'm here, you are present. You who are all loving, you who are all forgiving, you who love me just as I am. I'm here with you. I'm connecting with you in this meditation. So use it to think of connecting, use it to become aware, that I'm doing japa and my mind wanders away. No, let me do it as an exercise in awareness. I keep bringing my mind back to be present. Think of meditation as trying to drive the idea of spiritual life deep into myself. Everything that we repeat many times, it goes deep into our minds and hearts. That's why we meditate every day. So do it every day with the idea that whether I'm successful or not, whether I spend the whole period of meditation thinking about other things, that's okay. Not that that's where we want to end up, but it's okay that I'm still there because I sat and I tried. And that is making a samskara. That's making a samskara, a mental impression of effort in the right direction. That's enough. And you can think of when it's appropriate, when you need it. Think of your meditation as crying out to the divine, especially with something like japa. You can think of when you need it. Again, this is not the way to think of it all of the time, but when you need it, when you feel completely overcome by something or distracted or fearful or whatever, think of it as just crying out. Every repetition of the mantra is calling out to you. You're present in the mantra. Be with me. Help me. Help me. Calm me down. Take care of my fears. Take care of my anxieties. Help me. And let me bathe myself in the vibration of your name because that is you. The name is you. Let me bathe myself in that name. Let me soak myself in that name because that is my succor. That is my refuge. That is my safe harbor. That is my protection. So in these ways, we can gradually learn to find great benefit in meditation. So to conclude, as I said I would, end with Swami's Nityaswarupananda statement that meditation, real meditation, high meditation is difficult. So don't make that the whole of your spiritual life, but use it as one of the tools, as an important tool that you do every day. And at the same time, work on your life, work on your heart, work on your mind, work on your goodness, work on your compassion, work on your sense of service, work on your sense of unselfishness, work on your emotions, your negative emotions of jealousy and envy and things. One of the great benefits of growing older is some of those things, if we allow them to, some of those things begin to fall away. What am I going to be jealous of? Who cares? Who cares? That comes with age, if we allow it to. So many things we find that it doesn't matter. Who cares? Why should I care about that? So if that will happen naturally, all we have to do is to participate with it rather than fighting it. No, I'm going to be young. I'm going to be young and I'm going to be a teenager again. Well, next life. Not in this body. So just let it go. It doesn't matter. So again, don't make meditation don't identify spiritual life with meditation, but think of it as a great tool that takes a long time to develop. And so start now. Start now developing it. If it's going to take a long time, then the best thing to do is not to say it's going to take a long time, so I'm not going to bother with it now, I'll do it later. But there's going to be an even longer time. So start now. And along with it, do these other things. And then you'll find that your spiritual life has brought you great benefit. So with that, I'll close. Now, let me give announcements. I'm going to do the simple announcements first and the big announcement at the end. So, and that's going to take a little time. So the simple announcements, I'm going to cancel the classes this week, Tuesday and Thursday, because of the upcoming big weekend. No, let me modify that. I had already decided differently. We'll have the Tuesday night class on the Upanishads at 7:30 as usual. The Mundaka Upanishad, live streamed and open for live attendance as well. Thursday, the gospel class, I don't like to cancel it, but I will because it's coming too close to the big weekend when Swami Sarvadevananda, Swami Atmarupananda, and Mataji Brahmaprana are all coming here to be with us for celebration. So Swami Sarvadevanandaji and Swami Atmagnananandaji, they will arrive on Friday, April 1st, this coming Friday. And Friday evening at 6:45, we will have Arati here. And 7 o'clock, there'll be a satsang with the two Swamis. Swami Sarvadevanandji, who has not visited us for 3 years because after he used to come once a year. And so he came in 2019, I guess it was, in about this time in 2019. And then came the pandemic for 2 years in the next year when he would have come, starting the next year. So that 2 years of pandemic plus the year after he had come the last time. So 3 years since he's been here. So hope that many people can come to see him Friday evening. And then Saturday morning, for those who have arranged it, there'll be initiation in the morning. And then Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock, the two Swamis will be joined by Pravrajika Brahmaprana from Dallas. And so the three of them will speak here at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on meditation, the three different aspects of meditation. And I chose for them the topic of meditation because in the morning they're giving initiation to a number of candidates. And so those who have arranged already for the initiation. So that will be at 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday morning, we will have no service here. We will be going to Trinity to the new retreat, Lone Star Over Trinity Retreat in Trinity, Texas. For those of you who live in this area, it's close to 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours. Those who live on the north side of town, it's much less, because from here we have to go through town to get to the north, to go further north to Trinity. It's near Huntsville. And so we've sent out a flyer with the address. If you're not on our mailing list and want to go, and we encourage everyone to go, let us know and we'll send you the address. So that starts at 11 o'clock in the morning. So the program will go from 11 to 4:30, so that people have plenty of time to get back home, even from distant places before dark. And so it will begin with a worship, a simple puja, and then there'll be lunch served to everyone. And then after that, we'll introduce the retreat, the idea of the retreat, the hopes for the retreat, and a tour of the property. And then we will have talks, short talks. This is not a lecture program, but the Swamis and the Mataji, they will each address some words of blessing on the retreat and on all of the devotees gathered. And then we'll have some bhajans and devotional singing, group singing, and dance recital, Indian dance recital. So that will be the program. We hope that many people can come. And let me say that last time we didn't have good bathroom arrangements. We only had one porta potty, which turned out to be a very old and beat up porta potty. We didn't know what it would be till they delivered it. And then it was too late to change it. So this time we have much better bathroom facilities for men and for women and for the Swamis. And so don't not come because you're afraid there'll be no bathroom facilities. So again, we invite all of you. Now, for the big announcement, and it's one that I say with great sadness. It's there's a good it has its very good side, and it has a sad side. And so when I came back from the retreat 2 days ago, so today is Sunday, Friday. I worked very hard on Friday and came back exhausted. I stepped into the front door and my phone rang. And it was Mahayogananda in Hollywood. And he said the General Secretary just called and left a message with one of the monks that he needs to speak to Swami Atmarupananda immediately. And so I thought, what is that? I had no reason to anticipate anything. I had no idea anything was happening. And so I said, okay, well, then I'll try to get in touch with him right away. And as I was closing the conversation, very short conversation with Swami Mahayogananda, the landline rang. And I knew that's the General Secretary Maharaj, the administrative head of the whole order in Bellarmine. So I went and answered, and indeed, the person on the other end said, "Oh, Maharaj, General Secretary Maharaj wants to speak to you." And so I said, "Okay, please put him on the line." So he came on the line, and he said, "We have a great problem. We're facing a great problem, and we're calling you for help." And he said that you have heard that in Gretz we're having problem at the center there, and so the trustees have unanimously decided, including President Maharaj and the vice presidents, that you are to be posted to Gretz to take charge of the ashram. And you will be in charge of the Gretz ashram starting as soon as you can go, and we want you there within a week. So I said, "Maharaj, I can't possibly go within a week. I've got so many things going on here." And he said, "Do you have to go as soon as possible? Try to go within a week or 10 days. So this morning I booked a ticket to Paris on the 10th of April. So that will give time for the inauguration and the Swamis to come and then clean up and to settle some things here. And I come back after 2 weeks. So I go for 2 weeks to see the situation and then come back after 2 weeks. But then I won't be able to stay long. I'll stay long enough to tidy up things that I have to tidy up here. I can't leave in good conscience. So I say it's very sad for me because on the one hand, it's a great opportunity. The Gretz Center is a historic center and a beautiful center. But I came to Houston with the determination that all my life I've traveled, I've gone, most American Swamis or European Swamis, they go join in one center and they stay there the rest of their life. But I've moved all my life, which I've enjoyed doing. I've been greatly blessed by going to good places, interesting places, had an interesting life. But I came to Houston with the determination that this is where I will rest. And I'll stay here, dedicate the rest of my active years here. And even when I need to retire, I'll just retire here if the Swami who succeeds me allows. So I even thought that Trinity would be my retirement place, that I still have some active years left, but when it comes time when I can't manage and someone else takes over, then I'll ask to retire to Trinity. But as I told the General Secretary Maharaj, when all of the trustees have unanimously decided, including President Maharaj and the vice presidents, I can't say no. And the other factor is that it will be the first time a non-Indian has ever been appointed full head of a center. Here I'm under Swami Sarvadevanandaji, which has been a blessing for me because he's a wonderful Swami, a wonderful monk. It's been a blessing to work with him. And I will always have a deep regard and appreciation for him and for the freedom that he's given me here. But this will be the first time a non-Indian has been appointed independent head of a center. And so for the good of the Western work, so that people joining our order in countries outside of India know that I'm not always just going to be cutting grass and washing dishes and things, but that it is possible for a monk born outside of India to rise in the order. So it's important for the Western work. So for those two reasons, I can't say no because all of the trustees, including President Maharaj and the vice presidents, if some of the trustees said, we want you to go, and we had a vote and it was 6 to 11 or something like that, then I could say, well, there was a lot of difference of opinion, so I can say no. But when all of them, including President Maharaj and vice presidents, have said that we have decided, I can't say no. And for the sake of the foreign work, I can't say no. So again, it's happened very quickly. I had no idea. There was the furthest thing from my mind. In fact, when they said the General Secretary Maharaj needs to talk to you immediately, first thing I thought of was, gee, I haven't done anything wrong. What did I do? And then I thought, well, maybe there's some temporary thing. Maybe that they needs me to come to India to do something with the complete works for a short time. the project that I was working on before. So I had no way of knowing that this would ever happen. So again, it'll be sad because I love the work here. I have identified with it as a place where I would stay the rest of my life. And I've been very blessed with wonderful devotees, the people who come and the people whom I have come to love very deeply as my own. And so from that side, it will be very sad. But at the same time, I am a Swami, and so whenever I went any place, and there were people who said, I want to move to wherever it was, San Diego or Ridgely Manor, because I feel a rapport with you. So I want to be, where you are. I want to be close and learn and come to your classes and things. I've always told people, don't ever become attached to a Swami, because if I'm told I have to go somewhere else, I just have to pick up and move. That's the case here. So I go without regret. I have no regrets about going. The one thing that I am concerned about, of course, is the welfare of this center. They will send another Swami, but I want to see that the center is well taken care of, and that the life of the center continues with full momentum, and that that is there'll be an inevitable and unavoidable interruption, because first of all I have to leave before there's a replacement. It'll take months before a replacement comes. So we'll see what we can do in the interim to keep things going here, so that there's not a lull in activity, but things keep going. I have several ideas in mind. But I personally, I go with no regrets. I just go with this, sadness to leave such wonderful people, and growing and wonderful work. And if I can see that the things are going to be well taken care of, then there'll be no sadness for that. Let me just mention one other thing, and that is that we are working at getting rid of the loans before I leave. So the loans that we took out on the property at Trinity. So before I leave, even before I leave on April 10th, I'm trying to see that those loans are completed and taken care of. So not by taking money out of the general account, because that would exhaust everything in the general account. That's why we took loans on the property. But I'm working towards getting the loans taken care of in other ways, legitimate ways. I'm not robbing a bank to do it, but looking into other ways of getting the loan so that the land is free and clear. So that because I can't in good conscience leave debts to a new Swami, and no new Swami wants to come to a center where there are debts either. So I think we're on the path to getting that resolved and taken care of, so that I can leave the center debt free. So with that, there's not anything more to say. I've said quite enough. So before I go, we'll have a formal goodbye. So I'm leaving on the 10th of April for 2 weeks, coming back, closing things up, and then we'll have a formal goodbye, a chance to see everybody, and then I'll make my final departure. So with that, I'll give a closing chant, and then we'll have arati for those who can stay for the arati. Om madhuvatartayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha madhvirna santoshadhihi madhunaktamutoshasi madhumatparthivagum rajaha madhudyaurastu nah pita madhumando vanaspatir madhumagumastu suryaha madhvirgavo bhavantu naha. Om madhu, om madhu, om madhu. For us who seek the truth, and for all living beings, may the winds blow sweetly. May the rivers flow sweetly. May the herbs yield us sweetness. Sweet be the night and the break of day. Sweet be the very dust of the earth. May the heavens pour down sweetness upon us. May the trees, lords of the forest, bear us sweetness. May the sun shed its sweetness upon us. Om, sweetness, sweetness, sweetness.